Welcome back to a special edition of the Social Web TV. Yes, it's been a while, but this is a special occasion. As you know on the show, we're always talking about big topics that are industry-wide in their implication, oftentimes a particular technology. This is no different than that. We've actually got two special guests to talk about a subject that's important to all of us, and that is account security, specifically in the domain of webmail. And representing two of the biggest webmail providers, Google and Microsoft, we've got special guests Erich Sachs of Google and Krish Vitaldevara of Microsoft. Did I get it right?
Yep.
All right. So, account security. I hope we can make this a lively discussion. Are we going to be talking about any important technologies? Two-factor auth?
Yeah,
Sure.
talk about that.
All right. Who wants to tee us up?
I'll go first.
Sure, I'll go first. So I think account security has been becoming more and more important, and saying that is kind of an understatement, because over the last 2 years, all the web services are being connected, and what used to be traditionally a real concern for financial institutions or financial services has moved on to web services, social services, like everything that you have on web. And I think that from technology perspective and customer experience perspective, there have been a lot of investments that each of us have been making. And as an industry, I think we're at a point where it's really good to educate customers and realize the significance of the work that we are doing. So I think we'll have a really good conversation around that. So.
Yep, that sounds good.
Well, it's interesting to see two companies that are often viewed of as competitors coming together and working on this. Are you guys going to hug it out on the show? Or?
Oh, big hugs. All right, man.
Let's go.
So this isn't an area where we necessarily have to work on like technical standards interop between each other, but one of the things we've come to realize is a lot of Google users, a lot of Gmail users in particular, they use services from Microsoft. A lot of Hotmail users use services from Google. And so we both have an incentive to protect those accounts, even if quote unquote our webmail users go to other websites. Microsoft or plenty of other websites on the net. And so we want to talk today about some of the ways that users can help protect themselves, some of the ways we're trying to better protect them, and also some education about what you can do to make sure that you actually can recover your account in the case it does get hijacked later.
It really does also seem to be a growing problem. I know just today in Facebook, I saw a friend of mine reported that one of their webmail accounts was hacked and sent spam to every one of his friends. My former boss of mine recently sent me an email that was very questionable. And just about a month ago, I was frozen out of my Gmail account over a security concern.
Hopefully you got back in?
I did.
Good.
I think doing something with my mobile phone.
Yeah. Well, and that's an important one. Do you want to talk about y'all's work in that area, or I can talk about what Google does?
Oh, sure. So I think especially what we're doing around mobile for account recovery is actually being able to use SMS as one of the options. Because if you look at it generally, the people, the users and their recovery options that they had their secret question, secret answer, and they had their password. And less than 25% of users actually even remember what they set it up with these accounts that are like 10 years back, 6 years back, 8 years back. So it's really key for us to be able to get the rightful owners their accounts back, and SMS is a really big investment in that area. There are several other interesting ways we can establish that you are the rightful owner, but with the proliferation of phones and everybody having SMS, I think, and in markets where it's mobile first, like it's really interesting.
Yeah, in the case of Juju and Google, if you're like a Gmail user, you may notice the next time you log in, you'll see a promotion saying, hey, please add some additional information in your account to help us in case you need to recover it, mobile phone being a big one. And the really important thing we're trying to do here is, in the case of someone like John, whose account did get compromised, Google in many cases is able to detect that. We lock the user out, unfortunately, and we want to help them recover access. Imagine your account had your family photos in it. What if there wasn't enough information there for Google to determine that you were in fact the real owner of the account? That would be quite upsetting. And so we want to try to get more users to add this additional information to their account so that they can get them back if they do get hijacked. Of course, we want to keep them from getting hijacked
Yeah.
as well. But
And I think in my particular case, I don't think the account actually had been hijacked, but something happened that
fishy
was suspicious enough that there was a desire to have me change my password. And
Yeah.
I actually, the experience was quite good for me, even though there was a short period of time where I was not able to access my webmail.
Yeah, and I think we're all getting more sophisticated there in developing mechanisms to just monitor a user's account and make judgment calls in the day. Is this an account that's almost certainly been compromised? Is it possibly compromised? Google has been doing something specifically for Gmail users for a few years where they could go at the bottom of Gmail and look at the IP addresses of where their account was logged in. And a sophisticated user might notice some weird activity and remotely log one of them out. But we didn't see enough users using that. So another thing that Gmail users will sometimes see is they'll log into our account with this big red warning bar at the top saying, hey, we've seen suspicious activity on your account, and try to walk them through a wizard to help them, help us and them decide, is your account compromised? And if so, lock the hackers back out.
Yeah, and to just add to Erich's points, I think prevention is going to be our number one goal. We want to just make sure our users don't get compromised in the first place. That means either having stronger proofs, them having ways to not leak information, like you're coming in from a insecure location or a terminal somewhere else. Like you don't have to give your password. You could pretty much get your one-time password over SMS and use that to log into your account. So prevention, to be able to not receive that phishing mail instead of actually getting a phishing mail, responding to it, and then having to go through recovery. So prevention is number one goal, but some percentage of accounts are going to be hijacked because there are going to be spammers who are going to be sophisticated and trickier, and there are going to be users who are gullible. So at the end of the day, once the account does get compromised, then we focus a lot on detection and mitigation, and some of the techniques are very similar.
Right.
I think we have a very rich telemetry. Both the services have very rich telemetry on what it means, and we can detect suspicious activity. So it's about getting the user to actually realize that something wrong is going on, because there were cases where we saw compromisers actually coexist with the real users, and they're
That's a
very,
big
very
problem.
smart. They remove your NDRs, they make sure there is no sent mail, they clean up after them so that
So
there
wait
are
a
no
minute,
traces left.
What you're saying is someone hacks a webmail account and the user doesn't know it,
Yep.
keeps accessing their mail, but the compromisers, what are they doing with that account?
So that's actually the majority value proposition for them,
Yep.
is to let the user not know that their account is compromised. Because the moment the user knows the account is compromised or the service detects compromise, they're going to lock you out, and you lose the value of acquiring that account. So the key focus for them is actually to be able to live under the sheets and to coexist with the user.
Right. I mean, in most cases, they're sending spam out from the user's account, and it doesn't necessarily even directly hurt the user if they're just sending out to random people. If they start sending spam to your friends, on the other hand, you might get a little bit more annoyed. And so that's why we talk about these approaches. And we don't want to have users think that we're putting all the burden on them, that they have to go and perform all these special steps. All the players here are doing more sophisticated things to try to keep users out of their accounts. One of the things Google announced earlier this week was a service that we call two-factor authentication, where if a user opts into it, every time they try to log in from a new computer, they type not just their password, but we also, at the point forward, will send an SMS message to their phone that they can type in. And some of you may have encountered this from banks. So it combines something your password, with something you have, your phone. Right now, that's only available to our enterprise users, but we said that in a few months we'll make it available to consumer users like you to protect your account.
And when that special password comes via SMS, is that like a one-time use or is
Correct.
it permanent? Okay.
One-time use.
Yeah, I think we took a slightly different approach, even though it's very similar. I think in enterprise case, it makes sense to have two-factor auth, but to consumers, sometimes you just don't want them to even leak the first piece of information, which is their password. So in that case, just focusing on one-time password and just use it either pre-generated because you're traveling, or get it on SMS and actually use it to get into your account is key, because you just don't want to leak any information where you don't have to.
Right.
So.
In a perfect world, we'll get to the point where users don't even enter their passwords, which at least my mom would love. She finds it annoying, and we find it annoying that users keep giving them away. So industry is, definitely trying to head in that direction and, use technology, whether it's OpenID or these other authentication schemes with mobile phones to try to get there.
Yeah, and one topic that we've talked about a lot over the evolution of OAuth is this practice that was at one time very common for a service to just basically ask you to cough up your Gmail or Hotmail credentials so that they could import your address book so that more things could happen. Fortunately, this trend toward OAuth really seems to have taken off, so that's becoming much less common. So that's one area where industry and individuals, I think at this point you should be very suspicious when an application is asking you to give up credentials to a service other than that one.
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate, we don't even need a password. Like, we would never, ever even ask for your password, even if you were trying to help you recover your account. So that's where adding other kinds of recovery mechanisms is really key, because we don't have your password. We don't know what your password is. So there is no need for you to send it to us, moreover, on clear text, like an email.
So Microsoft and Google working together on this, that's, I think, fits within that trend we talk about here of big problems that are common. The companies can work together either on open standards or best practices. Do you guys have any kind of formalization of this, or just continue to work together on particular ideas or projects?
Definitely continue to work together. I'd say one of the things, it was about 2 years ago that we saw a lot of the increase in this type of account hijacking. So certainly the last 2 years, the amount of industry efforts in this area, as well as just industry information sharing about techniques. Like I say, helping my users helps them when they're on Microsoft and vice versa. I think that's going to continue.
And we always actually pick up the phone when we see an attack vector where that's actually coming from Gmail onto Hotmail, and we are like, okay, here.
So hackers out there, be scared. We're ganging up on you guys.
Exactly. Well, that seems like a great way to end it. So keep your eyes open for things happening in this space. When your webmail vendor is asking you to add some additional information, understand that that's for your protection. Don't give away your password to third parties. Don't use the password 123456. Any other key tips?
Keep your software as updated as possible. Your browser, your operating system, your Adobe Reader at this point.
Cool.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. So yeah.
Well, obviously, given all of those evil people out there, this is not a topic that will go away. I hope you guys will come back as more progress is being made. And join us whenever we feel like it for a special episode of the Social Web TV.